Welcome back to Speed Demon Painting. Today we're taking a look at painting Tesla, Nikolaï Tesla from the starter set from the new Wild West Exodus edition. I started off by base coating the whole model over a black primer that still shows slightly through to the end, and after I applied that base coat, which is James Workshop Rust Grey from the Air range, I applied a zenithal coat of Ultra 1 Grey, followed by a few accent colors with some white ink from Liquitex. And after I was done doing this, I just hit it with a gloss varnish all over to prepare it for the next stage. This is essentially what the model looks like at this stage. You sort of get some nice shadows from both some of the black primer showing through and that rust grey from Games Workshop coming through. I did that for all of the heroes from the Union part of this set to prepare them for the next stage, which is an oil wash. Now, if you want to make an oil wash, you always have to use some mineral spirits to do so. I always just apply them to a simple plastic container. Just use the lids from my blister packs from the little tufts I apply. And the color I'll be using for this is Payne's Grey. My particular Payne's Grey was from Winsor & Newton, but it doesn't really matter. The shop I got it at, the art store, had plenty. Now you can apply this either through a pin wash. If you've applied a coat of gloss varnish, it will really run into the recesses. But I don't really bother because I just slap it all over, and the beauty of the gloss varnish is that the oil wash will find its way across the model where it needs to be. Also, the great thing about oil washes is that you've got a very long working time on them, so you can really push the pigments around as much as you want before you are happy to leave it alone somewhere and leave it to dry. The major downside to the oil washes is that they do take a long time to dry though, so I got this box slightly earlier in the mail than I should have. But yeah, it does help to get it done by release day, because yeah, these oils do take at least 24 hours to dry. I applied it to all of the models, Tesla and everything, and it does leave you with a bit of a bluish tint in the end. Now, I was doing all the detail work on these models, I thought on camera, but it seems like I knocked it during the recording, and most of it was off frame. And sadly, being still quite new to this, I didn't bother to check it during the painting, so at the end of the video I've actually got a bit of an overview of what the model ended up looking like after it's all said and done. This oil wash looks quite intense, but as it dries up it really dies down quite a bit, so it looks way bluer in this stage than it will end up. Which means that you can still accentuate things like rivets and everything afterwards with the same oil wash, because even after 24 hours that puddle of oil wash will still be very workable, while the stuff on your model will have probably dried up. After it was all done, just hit it with a matte varnish, and then you can start doing the detailing again. I recommend doing a matte varnish over the oil wash, because if you're still working over that glossy surface, you will have a very hard time applying a neat coat of paint over it. There's also a second thing. If you apply a matte varnish over it, you can actually start picking out the rivets, and it will stain slightly more than if you apply a gloss coat. Now, before you apply this matte varnish though, I do always go around with a cotton bud to remove any of the excess oil wash, and just to make sure that everything has some of the highlights that were applied with the white airbrush layer sort of get brought back a bit. I do regret using cotton buds though. I've heard somewhere that it's better to swap to makeup sponges, because these cotton buds do have a tendency to leave some of the small hairs everywhere that you have to then remove before you actually apply that varnish. So I think I'll be doing away with this technique in the future and just try to get my hands on some makeup sponges in the end. Now, I decided to go for a white and blue color scheme for this model. Again, after all of this, you will see it in the video, and sadly all of the recording went wrong for this one. So all that was really left to do was apply that matte coat, start highlighting, start painting all the other details in blue armor and stuff. And I'll be making more videos to show you how that is done in the near future. Didn't want to make this video too long. I also opted for copper details for the metallics on these, because, well, if you really want an American style color scheme, ideally you'd have a bit of red in it, but I didn't want it to be too on the nose, so I just went for red metallics, as you can see here. That sort of brings that out. And yeah, that's it done with the lighting and the face and everything. So if you want to learn more on how to do the other parts, stay tuned for the next videos on this, and I will see you next time.